Hello and welcome. My name is Karen McAllister. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Recruitment for the College of Engineering at the University of Texas at Arlington. And welcome back to our final Ask an Ambassador for this semester. Thank you all for popping in and hope that y'all have gotten so much out of this entire series over the course of this semester. So our final topic today is going to really be honing in and focusing in on really some overarching tips for success as an engineering major. So we've talked about a wide range of different topics, everything from your academic success to really looking at the grit and success of an individual. We have talked about so many different components of being an engineering major and how you can really put all those pieces together to really help you be successful as an engineering major at this time. So one of the big things that I want to make sure you're aware of is there's, of course, many lists out there that talk about being a successful engineering major and how to go through a different process and, all these different tips. So really, we have quite a range of tips that I want to make sure you are knowledgeable of. So one of the big things that I see when I'm working with engineering students is failure. Failure happens to a lot of students. This is something that's not unique to one major or another, but you learn a lot from your failures. So you learn how to maybe change the situation. Maybe you learn how to adapt to the situation. Maybe you learn how to grow from the situation. So failure really provides an opportunity for a lot of different growth for you and provides you an opportunity to, experience and learn something from it, hopefully. So next would be, of course, learning from those mistakes. And sometimes there's multiple mistakes that cause a situation to, be a little bit more of a unique experience for individuals. So you have to learn and identify the different mistakes or pieces that help you learn and how you can grow from that failure. I will say some of the big components for myself in learning have always been more along the lines of I learned more from my mistakes and my failures because it taught me how to get up and try again. But it also taught me how my processes and my thought processes maybe weren't always the best. So, I would say failure is just definitely one of those big pieces of the puzzle there. And I am joined today with Ishrat, who is one of our ambassadors for College of Engineering, and she'll be popping in just a moment to introduce herself. But yes, so talking about failures, it's one of those big things. And one of the things that I do see a lot of students
Sure. Hi, Karen. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty. I think Ishrat's live now.
Okay. All right. Ishrat, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi. My name is Ishrat. I am currently a master's student in the biomedical engineering department, and I will be graduating this December. And as you can see, I'm having some technical difficulties. So it should be better now. I don't know why Microsoft Teams was cutting me off, but yeah, ready to go whenever you guys are.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask some questions of you, Ishrat, to see what you kind of think about failure and where you kind of learn from different successes and stuff. So many times papers, projects, classes, they just don't go as planned for a lot of individuals. What have you learned from any of your failures, and what advice would you give to students who fail their first paper or project or class?
Yeah, definitely. I came into college with the mindset, like I was a 4.0 student in high school. I did really, really well. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a 4.0. It's going to be great. Like, this is going to be a piece of cake. It was not a piece of cake. I remember the first lab report I did for one of my engineering labs for my intro to engineering lab. I got a 40 on it. It was horrible. And I asked the TA, I'm just like, what did I do wrong? And she's like, well, this wasn't in a professional format. You didn't use the right template. You didn't, there were multiple things. And so, I really took a lot in speaking with her and taking the time to go to her TA hours, because she's like, in engineering, like, don't be deterred. Like, she's like, bad grades are really common, but, just learn from it, do better on your next lab reports, which I did. I took her advice. And so, yeah, a lot of engineering is, learning to fall, and then, but at the same time, learning how to pick yourself back up, I think. So.
Absolutely. So I've got to ask this. So a lot of times students maybe have this idea that if they fail this one class or they fail this one project, that they cannot be a successful engineer or move on to a grad program. Have you found that to be the case in your own experience, or even the experience of peers that you come across?
No, absolutely not. I mean, look at Mark Zuckerberg. He's so successful, and he doesn't even have a college degree. So I don't think, like, just one class isn't going to define your future. Like, and it might be a class that, it might not be in your wheelhouse, and that's why you didn't do well. But that doesn't mean that you won't end up being a good engineer. It just means that in that particular area, you weren't the best, and it's okay. And just learn that, just learn from it, and just next time when you if you do have to take the class again, just learn from it and do as the best as you can. And it's not going to define you at the end of the day. Everybody gets a bad grade here or there. I had a professor who actually, what was the story he told us? He, one of the big donors to one of the universities he used to be a lecturer at, he's like, yeah, he donated a lot of money to my lab. And so at the end of the day, this guy's like a millionaire. There's not anything I can buy him that he can't buy himself. And so he went and framed the guy's transcript, and he highlighted all the F's and C's that the guy got, and he presented it to him. And the guy's like, yeah, despite all that, I became like something. And so I think that's something that should be valued. Like, just failing a class won't kill you. Just retake it, redo it, and do the best that you can. Like, if you truly want to become an engineer, then that's just what you're going to have to do. Just have to go through it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's definitely something that anyone can take on into their lives. Is you're going to fail some things along the way, and it's just not going to be what you expected them to be, and you just got to pick it up and move along from there. So, yeah, how do you see failure in the classroom? Projects, papers, group work that's failed, or even that classroom experience, maybe that wasn't as successful. How do you see that playing into professional career potentially for a student? What can they learn to take into their professional roles?
Dealing with adversity. I think, failing in the classroom helps you definitely learn how to deal with adversity in the future. Like, let's say at a job, your boss is going to give you a project. You're not always going to be successful with that project. And so, what failure in the classroom really teaches you is that how to deal with that, so that, when you're in the job market, you can react to it the best you can, so that, you look good in your boss's eyes versus not being able to handle it well, and then, potentially like getting written up at work, or potentially even getting fired. So I think definitely failure is vital for success. As opposing as it may sound, I think failure does in the long run help you kind of learn how to succeed, or that's what it's been in my experience.
Absolutely. So kind of piggybacking off of that, self-doubt is something many people face. For example, I've heard of students talk about how their friends are doing better in classes or on projects, and they make that look so easy. How do you suggest, or what advice would you give to overcome that sense of self-doubt?
Everybody has everybody has different things going on in their life. Like, your friend, you might, have like a big class load. Your friend might be only taking that one class, and that's how they're doing so well. And I think that's something we get really caught up in engineering. Like, I know my freshman and sophomore year, I really did. Like, one of my friends got like all A's, and she never studied. Like, I would always see her working out, and I'm just like, how are you doing this? only to find out her older sister was in the same degree plan a couple years ahead of us and knew the exact professors and like tutored her and did all this, and that's how she got the A's. And so, you know, some people like that experience. Some people might just have like an up that you won't, and it's just everybody's different. And so don't compare yourself to anyone else. Like your experience is going to be different than your friends, and your friend's experience is definitely going to be different than your own, you know?
Absolutely. So that's a lot that we've talked about on failure and growing from that experience. Let's talk about success. So sometimes everything goes right. You get that great project grade, you get that great paper grade, the test grade, class grade. But I've maybe done all this great sample work, projects or papers that, you know, maybe I want to take that on to help me apply to an internship, a co-op, or a job. How is there a way to show what work you've done successfully in terms of when you're applying to internships, co-ops, or even professional positions?
Yeah, so for me in my resume at the end, I have projects worked on portion, and then I have the project, a little summary about what was the project and my role in it and what I did. And so for my senior design project, for the lab that I worked in, and even like in classes, like there was in my undergrad, I took a digital design class, and we had to design a vending machine. And so I talked about that and how I had to do the digital signaling aspect of it, and I had to code it and things like that. And so every major project I've had in a class, I believe, is on my resume, and I detail like the highlights of it, because like you know, those projects are meant to be like taught to you for a reason. You know, the professors assign it for a reason, and so I think you should definitely use it, you know, in order to like kind of demonstrate what you know. And I think it will, you know, definitely help you, and it'll also give like potential like people who are going to give you an internship, or even employers, like, okay, well, this girl knows how to do this, she can, you know, do this. Oh, okay, she made a vending machine, that means she's good in digital design. She knows like, oh man, it was so long ago, she knows how to do like, oh, we did like so many like different things in digital design. But yeah, so I think that really gives a good focus of it.
So you kind of touched on a couple different things that are heading into next topics that I'm looking at. So my question for you now is group projects. You kind of touched on that and talking about those projects existing. Can you talk more about the importance of group projects and how that sets someone up for success, not just in their engineering program, but for any steps they take after their engineering program?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of my friends, as you know, we are located in the DFW area, so Lockheed is a big employer of our students. And so several of my friends who went on to work at Lockheed, they mainly work in teams. And that's how a lot of engineering jobs are kind of structured. You work in a lot of team-based settings, hence so many group projects in your undergrad and graduate career. And so this really kind of, you know, helps you kind of realize how to work in a group, how to work with others, like interpersonal skills, like, you know, and things like that. And I think it definitely like helps you kind of understand like, okay, these are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, how can I work with these and the strengths and weaknesses of my teammates to, like, you know, build a successful project. But I think the most important thing for engineers especially is, since we're so introverted, having like a group project allows us to kind of come out of our shell and kind of develop those interpersonal skills. Like, I know, like, I don't really like confrontation at all, but I've had a couple of group projects where there was someone who tried to slide by, and I had to have that uncomfortable talk with them and say, hey, like, this isn't really fair. And, you know, I kind of helped me become like a better leader in a sense as well too. So yeah, I think group projects are beneficial in like all areas and kind of like help you a lot. I'm not the best at group projects. I really don't like them. I like doing things at, like, you know, my own pace. I know myself and I know how I work. But it's just like, it's one of those things, you know, it's going to help you later on in life, because so many things in engineering is like more of a group effort and a team effort versus like an individual effort.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. There's just so many opportunities to learn and grow just from group projects, just the dynamics and the communication process that just sets anybody in really any field up for success. So you talked a little bit about on your resume. So let's talk resumes. So this seems to be a problem area for many students sometimes because they either have never created a resume, so they don't even know where to begin, and then some people are updating their things for the first time ever. Do we have resources available for students, and what advice would you give to a student that's seeking out either updating their resume for the first time in a long time or creating their resume for the first time?
Yeah, so at UT Arlington, we have a big career development center, the Lockheed Martin Development Center, and it's located in the University Center. It's in the back, I believe, near it's near one of the dorms, and so it's this big career advice center, and you can get headshots done, you can get critiqued on resumes. If you don't know how to start even a resume, they can help you. You can make an appointment. I believe they still have virtual appointments still going on, and they have like virtual things you can attend. And so that's where I started off. I had my resume critiqued by them, and they were like, yeah, this is good. This is kind of take this off, like, do it, like, put it in this way. And so, yeah, one of the counselors really helped me. And then, they have these events where you can get like a free headshot for your LinkedIn, which is for an engineer, it's very, very important because, networking for us is really good because if there's like a job you want, having someone who's already in that job and can definitely help you give like a heads up. Also, we have Miss Carol Coleman in Engineering Student Services in room 242. It's on the second floor of Netterman Hall, and she does a great job. She runs a career fair every fall and spring just for engineers only, and she has these major companies like Bell, Lockheed, Raytheon, and Simmons, and all these other companies come out, and they basically give you their time. And so for those events, a lot of the engineers, they come, dressed really well with their resumes, and they can do like on the spot interviews and things like that. And so, yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of resources available at UTA that can kind of help you like hone in like your post-grad, like how to like help you shape your post-grad like experience, like for like if it's for a job or if you want to apply to like grad school or professional school.
Absolutely. And we got a question in the Q&A. So in engineering projects, how do you go about working in groups that don't participate at all or act like they are helping the project along, etc., until everything's done, or that has been done or started? What do you do on your own at this point? How would you handle situations? So can you tell me and walk me through some conflict situations, and if you have maybe a member who's being a little bit more not as highly participatory as you maybe would hope that they are in a group project, how do you go through that process?
That kind of, it goes along with a lot of problems that I've faced and like my friends have faced when they've worked in groups. They always have that one person, right? There's that one person like Sally over there who's not doing her part, but when the professor comes, she looks like she's doing her part, right? And so what I do with a lot of my group projects, I put it on a Google Doc, right? Because then everything is time stamped. Every person who has made an edit, every person who has made a change to that document, you can see when and what time they've done it. And so that's the one thing that I utilize highly in order to keep track of what I'm doing as well as what my group mates are doing, because it's not really fair that 2 people do the work and then 4 people get the credit, right? So I also reached out to professors and said, hey, this is what's going on. I can't, unfortunately, I've given them that chance. Like I've emailed them, I've texted them, I've had a project where I tried to reach out to this kid and like they never like responded to me, and I texted them, I group meet them, I WhatsApped them. I even sent them a Facebook friend request with a message saying, hey, will you please put this in? And so at that point, like I just reached out to the professor. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm really trying. I like me and my other group mates don't want our grade affected because this person isn't doing their part. And so sometimes, the professor will be understanding and kind of work with you. And other times the professor will be like, well, think about what will happen in industry if this is something that happens. And so, at the end of the day, you may just have to end up doing their work, but just let the professor know, let your TA know, have as much documentation as possible, because, you know, other people sometimes they tend not to tell the truth and say, oh yeah, I did this part. But as long as you have, like, you know, proof and things like that showing that they did not, then you know, you have a clear case for the professor when he decides your final grade. And it's just a sad thing with group projects. Not everyone's going to participate. Not everybody is motivated as like their group mates to succeed. And it's just something, you know, you just kind of have to deal with from time to time. So.
Absolutely. I think anyone who has ever participated in a class at any point has run into a group project somewhere along the way, or even professional project where maybe not everybody was participating to the same full extent as you would hope for, or that was originally planned. So going in this vein, Ishrat, let's say hypothetically you're in that group of 4 people and you're the only person that's actually able to do anything, and you're the only person at this point that is actually participating, and you've got a due date that is just around the corner. What is your advice to a student that is in that situation? Let's say their project's due in the next 2 weeks.
For me personally, when I think about it like that, I'm like, well, it has to get done, right? You can't not hand in something. And so I would start working on every aspect that I could, and I would continue to try and reach out to my teammates. And then I would just keep my professor in the loop as much as possible and say, hey, you know, I'm working at my max capacity. However, I'm not getting the same sort of effort from my group mates. And I just, please, can you take that into consideration when I turn in my final project, whatever it may be? Because at the end of the day, the professors like that you put in an effort, and they will, you know, see that, and they will definitely take that into consideration. But just don't not hand anything in. Just from personal experience, like I've had a professor who was just like, even if you would have just turned in 1 page with your part of the project, I would have given you full credit, versus you emailing me multiple times saying, hey, they're not doing this, you know? And so just make sure you have, like, you do as much as you can, so that your effort can be seen.
Absolutely. I will say that is something that I've always seen, is at least try to do something rather than nothing. Something at least shows that you are still putting in that effort, that you're still getting something out of the experience, rather than the miscommunication aspect of some of these components. So any last tips, advice, or anything you'd give to be successful in group work as an engineering major?
Start early, don't procrastinate. Like, you know, sometimes people will be like, oh yeah, let's just meet up the week before. No, let's not do that, because there might be multiple factors. Like, you may have to design like a schematic, and there's like multiple things you have to do, and you're just like, oh, this is going to take time. And, you know, just don't procrastinate. Like, group projects are meant to be more of a learning experience, and, you know, I have learned a lot from them, but it's only because, like, you know, like the groups that I've had are like good groups, and we've started early, and that's how we made those good group projects. And also just keep in mind, group projects can definitely like make you if you do a really good project, kind of make you stand out in your professor's eyes as well. And a lot of our professors, they've either, maybe they work part-time in industry, or they've come from industry. And so if they think you did something really well, like one of my friends got a job at L3 Communications, because the project we did for our signals class, she did like a phenomenal job. We designed like an origami antenna, and the professor liked it, and just like, hey, would you like to work in this field? And she's like, yes. And so now she works for L3. So, you know, just keep in mind, like, everything you do kind of represents you, and it can, you know, open new doors for you.
Absolutely. So I'm going to shift gears on us just a little bit here. Are there any classes or subject areas that you wish you had taken a little bit more interest in, or learned a little bit more about? And this can be an engineering-based one, or, you know, another higher education major or subject. Is there anything out there that you think would help you gain more and become a successful engineering major?
Absolutely. And those, I think I would have learned coding a little bit more, and I would have taken a couple more business classes, because engineers, we could be entrepreneurs, right? But since we only have that engineering background, we may struggle with the business aspect of it. and like kind of getting like your design or your business off the ground because you don't have that business savvy. And so we're trying to like, I think UT Arlington is doing like a fantastic job in trying to like bridge the gap between that, because in the electrical engineering department there is several classes offered. Like there's an entrepreneurship class offered, and it kind of goes from the ground up, and it teaches you about entrepreneurship, you know, patents and how to protect your design and things like that. And also the Dean's Challenge is one thing as well, and that's, you can do like a multidisciplinary team. And so for this year it was like related to COVID, and so you address the problem with your solution, and you design like a, if you have like a I think if you have like a object you're designing or things, like for the Dean's Challenge you have to submit like a business proposal to, and like if you're going to patent it, things like that. And so I think that definitely would help engineers a lot, because a lot of the things we think, oh well, I designed this, like, you know, this is going to be but like, you know, having your intellectual property like stolen by others is like a very common thing in engineering, and not knowing how to adequately protect it and things like that put you at a high disadvantage. And so business classes, I think, definitely are a must. And just far for me, I think coding is very, very vital in our world. And I think a lot of jobs, whether it be in healthcare, whether it be like, you know, Lockheed uses a lot of coding, Bell, but like other places too. I think just having like a really like good foundation for coding, like even if it's just C, would give you a strong like leg up between like other people who aren't as well versed in coding.
Absolutely. There are many classes, many subjects I too even wish I had taken more, learned more about. So I would say absolutely I agree on the business aspect, that you can learn a lot to help yourself grow, and maybe even your friends. Maybe you could learn something from that experience that helps them gain something from your knowledge. So let's talk about COVID-19 and how that's changed people's pathways, of course. So many people have had to adapt and change their path, and maybe their path is no longer linear, that they're not going to go straight from this junior level course into this internship, from this internship into their projects, and then graduate. Maybe their pathways are a little bit more muddled now. What kind of experiences have you or your friends had that you've had to like shift or adjust your pathway, shall we say, to address this abrupt change in society?
Yeah, for sure. COVID-19 definitely has impacted engineering a lot. Engineering, I don't know if it can be done online. It's kind of difficult to, you know, learn about all the different things like that I'm learning right now, like, you know, tissue engineering and things like that. I know a lot of like employers are trying to see how they can still do internships yet still be social distance at the same time. You know what I mean? And I've had a couple of friends who've unfortunately lost their internships, but they've been told that, hey, you know, in the future, you will have an internship once things goes back to normal. Don't know when that may be, but they were at least given like two of them were given like a letter saying that they would have like a internship opportunity or like a job opportunity in the future. But I think, you know, you have to be really versatile, and I think you just have to be really tech savvy as well, because employers in the future, they may give you an internship opportunity where you can work from home, like since that's such a big thing that we've been doing. Like I'm working from home, you're working from home, you know, so having like being tech savvy, I think, is a good way to go about like dealing with what's going on with COVID, and like knowing how to regulate platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, I think will definitely be advantageous. And just having like a positive attitude, and just kind of, if you kind of want like an internship somewhere, just, you know, keep asking, but not in like an annoying way, but just from time to time say, hey, you know, I'm still interested in this opportunity. And, you know, however, for me, I'm graduating. And so the job market is looking a little different because we're in the midst of a global pandemic. And so, you know, it's just like, you know, really like reaching out to the people that I've taken classes with before and like things like that, and kind of getting a feel for, hey, you know, who's hiring. And because a lot of employers right now, with everything going on, everything's kind of uncertain. And so a lot of them kind of don't want to hire anyone new, and because they don't know what the future is going to be like. So I would just say with COVID and everything, just keep your head held high, and just keep on trying and applying to all those positions, and just demonstrate that you can be flexible. You can you have that ability. You're tech savvy. You can work from home, and I think that will highly benefit them.
Absolutely. So going in the vein of COVID-19, because that's changed anyone's top tips for success for an engineering major. Many times students, when they approach their end of their senior year, they are really looking at, do I continue on with a master's or a graduate or professional based program, or do I go into the workforce? And some have the option to find an area where it's kind of in the middle ground. What kind of advice or questions should someone ask themselves about their thought processes, their success, if they are choosing to either go into either a graduate program or professional program or workforce, or how would they navigate that process?
Yeah, so there's like two pathways, right? Like you said, job or school. So for me, I would say the field that you're in, like how much are they hiring? And will you be able to get a job that you like, that will pay you for, your worth, because you have worked really hard to become an engineer. And, if there aren't that many jobs, then, getting a master's may be an option. Gee, this is a really tough question. I honestly, I don't know. I think it's up to that individual. You just kind of have to look at yourself, because like you have to assess like many different factors, because I know a lot of the my fellow classmates, a couple of them were like, I just want to get this degree. I just want to go just work, and just I know like a bachelor's is all I'm going to get. And so, there are those people. And so they would definitely enter the job market. However, like there are other people who like, may want to pursue a PhD in the future, but they want to work for now. It's just up to them, and like if they're willing to spend the money, or if they just want to go work. For me personally, I know I would like to go work. I'm not yet ready to start a PhD program. I'd like to be a little bit more financially set, but also like another big thing that needs to be taken into consideration is GPA. Like, are you graduating with a good GPA? Because in this current time, when you apply to a job, there are multiple other people applying to that same job, and you want to make sure that you have the best GPA possible. So, if GPA is a concern, then maybe a master's program would be beneficial, because it could help make up for, if you do well in it, it could help make up for a low undergraduate GPA that would potentially not get you a job. So, if I was in the shoes of someone who's going, who have these options, I would just look at everything. Like I would look at the financial aspect of it. I would look at, like personally, are you like, do you have a family? Like, are you single? Like, and then I would look at it from like, the school aspect of it, like the classes and things like that, and what they have to offer, and just go make a decision from there. Because I know the job market is definitely super competitive right now. So.
Absolutely. And so I'm going to walk us into talking about our network, our support, those components that help make us successful. So we're about to head into final exams, like they're just around the corner, final projects, all these things. What academic and health-based resources do we offer on campus to help students who are maybe having a little bit of trouble adjusting to our virtual environment still, or just setting themselves up for success for those final projects, papers, exams, all that jazz?
So the counseling and psychological services, I know they are doing virtual appointments and things like that. So that's definitely available for anyone who's, like we're feeling a little bit stressed, and there's just so much uncertainty with everything that's going on. And so that's been like, for a couple of people I know, that's been a very valuable resource, like going and scheduling an appointment. And also the different like engineering disciplines have been doing like different like tips on how to like succeed and things like that, like seminars have been being put on by the different engineering departments. So, reach out to your department and say, hey, I'm kind of struggling. Do you guys offer anything? And then also, the second floor of the library, there's like a student dedicated like floor where you can get like help and things like that. And after Thanksgiving, we're all moving to virtual. So I think they will have virtual, what's it called? Do you happen to know what it's called? Like it's on the second floor of the library. Student academic something. But if you go to, if you Google UTA student academic like help, or like, the name is like escaping me right now, but like they put on events and things like virtual workshops, and especially for freshmen and stuff, they help with like, I think like your beginning classes, like your English classes and stuff. Like if you have to write an essay, they can help with things like that on your writing skills. And then I believe that for math, the math clinic, there's a Microsoft Teams for them, and you can like go and you can join, and there are tutors there that will kind of like chat with you and help you through your whatever math problem you're having. So there's definitely a lot of options available, for like, having that mental help as well as the academic help. And if you can't find it, like I said, just reach out to your department, or you can reach out to us, the engineering ambassadors, and we'd be more than happy to help you find a solution to your problem or lead you to the right path towards the solution.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of different resources and services available from the university, because really at the end of the day, we're here just to help you succeed. We're going to challenge you in your classes. We're going to provide you multiple opportunities to grow, but we're going to make sure that you have the resources available to help you succeed academically and personally as well. So let's move into like a positive thing that like everybody always thinks about and reflects about. Since you're about to graduate, Ishra, I've got to ask you. Inspiration comes from many places and people, and I've got to ask, have you been inspired by a professor, a peer, or an industry professional in your time at UT Arlington?
Yeah, I've actually been inspired by my dad. He came here from Bangladesh in the late 1990s, and he worked his way up essentially through the company he worked for. My dad's background is electrical engineering and aerospace engineering, and he came and he worked his way from the bottom up to like a VP position, and he has overcome like so many things, and I'm just so proud of my dad. And my dad has made so many sacrifices on behalf of me, my brother, and my sister, and that kind of at a young age, it just kind of showed me that I need to be successful, because the sacrifices and the things he has gone through, I will never have to go through anything as hard. And so, in order to honor his hard work, I need to work hard and do something and make something of my life, because he literally went through so many difficult situations and difficult scenarios, and he always came out swinging. So
that's a great story and a great source of inspiration. So I've got to ask, Ishrat, what if you don't have that great relative or that friend? How do you go looking for inspiration if you don't have a great, remarkable person to help you from the ground up? If you're brand new to the university, brand new to here, how do you go looking for inspiration?
Yeah, so you just kind of have to find your passion, right? A lot of people in engineering, like you ask them, hey, what do you want to do? Oh, I just want to get a job. I just want to work. But like, you kind of just have to find your passion, because like if this is something you're going to do for the rest of your life, you really have to take into consideration, like, why am I doing this? At the end of the day, what can I contribute with this degree? And I did that, and I found a professor on campus that I really, really liked. And it was actually Dr. Chelik Butler in the electrical engineering department. And she does such great research, like MEMS research. She's like amazing, And so just kind of find your passion and see if there's a professor who does research in it or does something similar, or, if there's someone in industry that does something similar and kind of see like how did they become successful? Like, you know, what did they do day to day that differentiates them from you, and what can you do so that, you know, you can be as successful as them. And I think UTA does like a great job in this because we do a lot of networking events. We have a lot of events in which previous students come back and talk and give talks and things like that. And I think, you know, we really give our students a leg up in terms of, you know, showing them, hey, this is the degree that they got. This is similar to the degree you're getting. This is what you can potentially do in the future, you know, so.
Absolutely. So I've got to ask, how do you plan on keeping in touch with some of your peers to keep your network growing as you're going along and to keep in contact with people? How do you plan on keeping in touch with your peers, your professors, once you graduate?
Yeah, and so that kind of goes back to what we talked about last week in like LinkedIn and like keeping my LinkedIn page as up to date as possible, because that's the big thing that a lot of places and like a lot of employers utilize, LinkedIn. And so, you know, at the end of every semester, like the people in my classes that I like and I get along with, I always ask, hey, do you have a LinkedIn? And if so, can I connect with you on it? And then I do the same with professors too, and say, hey, you know, like, would it be okay if I added you to my network? Because sometimes like employers will see, oh, well, this person had so and so they have a connection with. And so, you know, because sometimes in engineering, the who you know helps you get in through the door. The what you know is what helps you get the job. And so just like knowing, like having the right connection sometimes can you, and you may never know this, like I, up until recently, did not know that, you know, like sometimes it is who you know. I always thought, hey, you know, I'm smart, I have a good GPA, like it'll help open doors. But like, you know, the world unfortunately doesn't work that way. And just keeping that LinkedIn up to date as much as possible, I think is very valuable. And then also I have a couple of group meets that are still going from previous classes, and they're both for engineering and non-engineering. And so I, you know, every now and then we always say hi and like we kind of update each other on what's going on with our lives and like, you know, what like in the future, what we kind of want. And so like, you know, doing things like that, just keeping in touch, like whether it's through GroupMe or whether it's through even Facebook, like I've Facebook friended some people. Just make sure you're comfortable with that person and just, you know, just stay in touch as much as possible, because networking and like having those connections is very, very valuable.
Absolutely. So we're nearing the end of our conversation today. I've got to ask, is there anything that you would also add in on how to succeed as an engineering major that we haven't talked about today?
No, I think we've hit everything. For me personally, there were semesters where I just had horrible semesters, and I would always go talk with my advisor. I had Pauline Mason as an advisor, and if you're in electrical, she's an amazing advisor. And I would always tell her, hey, you know, Pauline, I don't think I'm gonna graduate with this degree. I don't think I'm gonna graduate with this degree. But I ended up graduating with this degree, and you know, engineering is hard. Sometimes it is super rough, and you wonder if it's for you. But at the end of the day, you just have to keep going if it's what you truly want. Failure was something that I never really experienced much because I was always in AP classes, and you know, I took the higher level classes, and college was like a smack in the face for me. And so, you know, just roll with those failures. Failures happen in life. It's okay. Like we wouldn't be where we're at if people didn't fail, you know. Like we wouldn't have cool things like this awesome iPhone if, you know, people didn't fail from making like horrible phones, and then Steve Jobs is like, I'm gonna go make an awesome phone, you know. Just don't let the failure deter you. And also another thing that someone told me, like one of my classmates, he's super smart, he's like 20 and he's graduating with his bachelor's, and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna do a PhD, I'm gonna do all this, da da da. And I had another classmate who was like 44, and he was just so excited to be graduating with, you know, his bachelor's. And it's just, everything's about perspective, and having a good perspective can change everything. And it can, if you have a bad perspective, then everything will be negative, right? If you have a good perspective, everything may not be a positive, but it won't be a negative. It'll be a learning experience. And so engineering is like a gauntlet, and you just have to run through it, and just don't doubt that you won't complete your gauntlet.
All right, I've got one more question in the Q&A for you. I've heard an engineer should always have a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. Is that a piece of advice worth remembering?
Very much so. Because let's say, you go work in industry, you're going to have to grow a lot, because in these 4 years, the college can't teach you everything you need to know. Every day you're going to learn something new. Every day you're going to encounter something new. And so just knowing, and growing from those experiences will definitely be beneficial to you.
All right. Is there any other last imparting advice of any sort that you think anyone choosing to be an engineering major should know, or anyone graduating should know?
At the end of the day, believe in yourself as much as you can.
I think that's a great advice for anyone, for any major at any point in life. Just trust in yourself, believe in yourself. Absolutely. All right, so this is wrapping up our Ask an Ambassador, our final one of the semester. Up on the screen now, you should be seeing our contact information. Once again, my name is Karen McAllister. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Recruitment for the College of Engineering at the University of Texas at Arlington. And this is Ishrat. Ishrat is one of our engineering ambassadors. If you have any questions for our engineering ambassadors, feel free to reach out to them. They have an email that is up on the screen right there. And they also have office hours Monday through Friday. So you can always pop in and have a quick chat, ask them some questions, ask about their experience on being an engineering major specifically at UTA. Feel free to reach out to them. They have a lot of great insight and a lot of great resources they can always help you get connected to. Once again, thank you for joining us for our final Ask an Ambassador of this semester. We hope that you have a great final exams and projects and everything, and a great rest of the semester. Thank you.
Thank you.